Hi. Apparently, I'm live. This is an impromptu stream. Welcome to Wine and Reason. So, I, when I was a teenager, I saw a particular movie, and those of you who grew up in the 80s and 90s will know about it. Um, it has to do with a kid who creates a pirate. I say kid, teenager. He was played by Christian Slater. Yum. Who who creates a pirate uh, talk radio station, essentially. And we found out, my girlfriends and I, after being completely obsessed by this movie for way too long and way too much, we discovered that my dad had a shortwave radio down in the basement of our house. And we actually wrote scripts and came up with ideas for how we were going to do that. Like, this is podcasting before podcasting was a thing. And my segment was supposed to be the bitch of the hour. And it was going to be me bitching about things that were wrong with the world, or so I thought in my incredibly, astute 7th grade wisdom. Now, I never actually got this project off the floor. I don't think we even asked my dad if we could use his radio. However, I did learn a little bit about how to talk dirty and influence people from that film. And I also, now that we're living in a different time, I find myself wanting to shout into the void when things go wrong. And normally I'm talking about feminism, I'm talking about other issues that affect me on one level, but aren't quite so personal. But tonight, oh God, hi, Angie. Girl, I need you in here. You don't even know. Thank you. Hi. So, yeah, this is totally impromptu. I didn't give anybody any warning, so don't feel weird if you see this later. It's all good. Um, oh, I meant to put a hi in front of that. Sorry, Angie. I'm stressed out. I'm stressed out because a little after 10 a.m. on Monday morning, and I know I've told y'all I love my job. I really do. It's the best job I've ever had. And I'm 42 years old. It's taken me a lot of jobs and 7 years of higher education and 2 degrees to get to this job that I really love. And since COVID-19 became serious in the United States, which actually was sooner, actually after, they did the best. It's a great company, and they did the best they could with the information they had at the time. Hey, Amiga Nuts. They had us take our stuff home and start working from home, and that's great. And now we are under an order from our governor, Governor Lee, who I am not a fan of, but who did the right thing in the circumstance. So got to give it up for Governor Lee in this moment. We are under a shelter-in-place order, which means I'm only allowed to leave my home for essentials, like to go to the grocery store, to go to doctor's appointments. I'm hoping the bank includes that because I have a check I need to deposit. But really, it's just absolute essential stuff. And the banks in my city are doing a really smart thing. They're only working through the windows. They're not letting people inside. That's really good. That's really good for the tellers. My mom was a bank teller. I don't want, I don't want any of those people to catch this horrible illness that is killing a lot of people. And I read a story today about a 27-year-old young woman who was a grocer. She was a checkout girl at a grocery store. I did that. That was my first job out of college. And she had an underlying health condition, but she continued to work because her store catered to a large population of elderly people. And she was the person who helped them. She helped them get the groceries to their car. She helped them with their walkers. She helped them. And she told her parents, I can't stop going to work. No one's going to take care of these people the way that I do. And she caught COVID-19 and she died. So that's the depressing, scary thing that is way more important than the bitchy thing that I'm going to bitch about right now, which is my work has suddenly decided that a lot of us are non-essential. So even though up until now we were allowed to work from home, as of Friday, I am being furloughed. Now, the nice thing about that, if you don't know, and I did not frankly know the difference until recently. I've been fired. I've been laid off. I have never been furloughed before. So this was a new experience. Yay, new experiences. Furloughed means that, and I already double checked this, just making a video about this with, the right people. Like, as long as I'm not specific about for whom I work, and as long as I'm careful, I still have a job. So don't worry about that. But I'm going to be out of work for 3 months with health benefits, which is amazing and great. And I am really grateful for that. I truly am. But also without pay. And like most Americans and frankly, most people in the world, Junk Shop and I pretty much live paycheck to paycheck. We don't have a lot in savings. And what we did have, we had more savings, but we went to Scotland in November, and that rather depleted our savings account because it was expensive and it was so much fun. And I wouldn't trade that experience for the world, especially now since we can't go anywhere. But, if I'd seen this coming, I might have made a different decision. I don't know. Honestly, maybe I just would have put more on a credit card and said, screw it. I don't know. Yeah, so it's just a scary, I know it's a scary time in general. So what have we done? Well, we filed our taxes tonight. So we're going to get our tax return at some point. That will be very helpful. My parents, bless them, they are so sweet. My dad's been retired for 12 years, at least 12 years, if not longer. And they've already offered to help us out financially when we need it, when things get really tight. So that is fantastic. So we're lucky. We are incredibly lucky because we have people who care about us, and we have, and as a furloughed employee, if you don't know this, if you're furloughed, you can apply, check with your HR department because they might be able to do it for you, which speeds the process along depending on your state laws and such. But you are eligible for unemployment. And luckily, the Democratic House of Congress, thank you, recently expanded some of those benefits. So if you were, say, on unemployment before now, you get a 13-week extension if your unemployment is about to run out. If you are a part-time worker whose or were a full-time worker whose hours have been cut back, you can apply for a certain amount of unemployment. And it just depends. It depends on where you are. But there are more options open to more people, even in red states like the one I live in, for people who are furloughed, laid off, or who just plain lost their jobs because their business is shut down. So here's where I'm angry, and here's where I'm going to be a little bitchy. There's this white hot ember of anger burning inside of me. Because right now, just in my state, if you try to go to the unemployment website to fill out your application, it will crash on you because it's just overwhelmed. So many people right now are losing their livelihoods. It's like watching a documentary about the Black Death in Europe in the 1600s. in England. Like, it's like that. Like, so many people are losing their livelihoods and having to apply for unemployment. And we have such shitty safety nets in this country for that. And it makes me absolutely furious. I have friends in the UK and in Australia, and I'm not trying to speak out of turn here, so y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Like, let me know in the comments or whatever. But I know I've got some friends in the UK. They're getting, they're under a very strict lockdown order, just like us here now. They can be fined if they are out of their homes or gathering in big groups or whatever, when it's not an essential, like I said, going for food or going to the doctor. They can be fined for that. And police have the authority to enforce that, as our police do here now in Memphis, Tennessee. But the frustrating thing for me is that my friends in the UK are getting 80% of their salary right now while they are cooperating with that lockdown in the UK. No one here, no matter how much unemployment you can get, no matter what, you're not going to get 80% of your salary. You're not going to get even close to that. It's a pay cut to the point of, by the time assuming COVID-19 doesn't continue on and my company has to continue the furlough, assuming I come back to work in 3 months, we will barely have enough money to make the rent and keep the lights on. And I am not exaggerating. And again, like I said, my parents have offered to help us out. We're not going to starve. Don't worry about that. I mean, that's fine. But at the same time, it's not, because there are a lot of people who don't have that, who don't have a family safety net in the US. And our social safety nets are just absolutely inefficient for dealing with any of this. It goes back to this bizarre puritanical thing where, like, if you're poor, you somehow deserve it. Or if you are living paycheck to paycheck, that's your own fault for not planning better. And fuck that. Life is to be lived. Hi, Chris. Oh my God. It's the super amazing Chris. It's the Daily Atheist is in the chat. Thank you for swinging by, man. I really appreciate it. I'm cursing up a storm in here, so I love you. No, I know it doesn't really bother you. It's just, yeah. Okay, so that's where I'm at. I'm very frustrated with the lack of a social safety net. I'm frustrated with corporate greed, because this is happening to so many people. And so many people are being laid off, or businesses are being closed, or they're being furloughed because their companies can't risk their bottom line enough to keep us working from home, to keep us being productive, and helping the business run. Like, what I do is not superfluous. It could be, it can be, and has been, given a pandemic, deemed non-essential suddenly. Okay, fine. However, I can't say any specifics because I really need to still have a job in July. But if I could, it would illustrate to you, like, what I do is not pointless. You know, I don't do a job that does not have ramifications in the real world. And it's very frustrating, and it makes me very angry. And I really think that greed is what is driving this. And when the majority of you in the chat and myself, when we were being, raised Christian, we were taught about the 7 deadly sins, right? And greed is one of them. What we weren't taught, we were taught that the 7 deadly sins were deadly for us. That's not exactly the case. What we weren't taught is that greed is one of the deadly sins that's deadly to other people. People, not hopefully not me. I don't think so, and certainly not Junk Shop. I think like I said, we're lucky. We are very lucky in so many ways. We have so much support around us, but people will die because of corporate greed as a direct result of corporate greed right now. I don't expect any CEOs or CFOs to be listening to this or hear this. But if anyone who knows anyone, tell them not to lay their people off. Tell them to take the hit. For fuck's sake, I'm sure there will be some kind of bailout in the offing if they do. But right now, unemployment is terrifying, and it's affecting so much of us. So I'm sorry, so many of us. Pardon me. No, it's cool. You go do your thing, Angie. I love you to the moon and back too. Okay. Anyway, I'm pretty much finished. All right. So that was my rant. That was me bitching. I wish you all well. Stay safe. Stay the fuck inside if you can. And remember, you won't find truth in wine. You can find a little comfort, but not truth. But you can find it in reason. And just as much as we can, let's try to be good to each other and be compassionate. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night. Oh, fiddlesticks.